We have been discussing about the defense mechanism of our body. The first line of defense, the second line of defense, and now the third line of defense, that is the interferons. Interferons are certain alert molecules or proteins which are secreted after a cell has got infected by a virus. So you can think about a normal cell. When this cell gets infected by a virus, suppose this is a virus which has infected it, and the entire genetic material is changed, and not only that, the shape of the cell is also changed. Now the cell is on the verge of death. During that time, the cell starts secreting certain molecules. These protein molecules are known as the interferons. These interferons have certain receptors, and since they are proteins, they go and get attached to the nearby neighboring uninfected cells, normal cells, uninfected normal cells of similar type. And as soon as they get attached to these cells, suppose it has come over here and and has got attached to the new cell, it starts secreting certain chemicals, or it gives a trigger to these cells to get alert that there is a viral attack in a nearby cell, and now the next chance is yours. So you just increase your effectiveness of immune system. So making it just makes the nearby cells alert about the viral attack, and heightens the kind of response they can give towards the viral attack, so that they can fight against the virus. The main source for the interferons, or I should say the main types of interferons, are of two types. Type 1 interferon is interferon alpha and interferon beta, which is secreted by the virus infected cells, while the type 2 interferons, they are the immune or gamma interferons. So these are mainly secreted by the T cells. T cells, I we have already discussed last day. These T cells are certain cells, group of four different types of cells, which go and attach to the virus or the bacterium and kill them. So that's why normally we say the T cells to be natural killer cells. But not only that, there are suppressor cells, suppressor T cells are there, memory T cells are there, and as such also cytotoxic T cells are there. So they are various types of T cells. One of them is the natural killer cells. These natural killer T cells are the ones which are capable of self killing themselves after killing the virus. So they get attached to the virus, and along with the virus they kill themselves as well. So they are kind of suicidal in nature. And macrophages are large lymphocytes or large WBCs, which engulf the virus, and then after they produce the response, or they just engulf the virus and kill it. And and as a whole, what we can say, the function of the interferons is to fight against any kind of viral infection or any kind of infection which any which is infecting an individual. Now the interferons, they can be used also for treatment of influenza, hepatitis, and now they are also getting used for cancer treatment. So in this ways, interferons, they serve a very important role for the defense mechanism of our body. Next is about the most important substance or the molecule which is helpful in fighting against the disease, that is an antibody molecule. You can see it looks like a Y-shaped structure. The main structure of the, or normal structure of the antibody molecule is this. You can see the yellow area, the mustard color yellow area. That mustard yellow area is known as the constant region or the heavy region, heavy chain. So this part is the heavy chain. And heavy chains, they are two heavy chains base, they are attached to each other with disulfide linkage. You can see the disulfide linkage is there, and you will be able to see two different kinds of things. One is a Y-shaped structure which has a blue upper end. That blue upper end is also inclusive of this entire heavy chain. When I say a heavy chain, the heavy chain includes this entire structure. This is a heavy chain, and light chain is this smaller chain. So do not get confused about it. Please always remember the heavy chain is the entire big Y structure and the smaller structures are the light chains. These all are combined with each other or attached with each other with the help of disulfide linkage, and there is presence of variable regions. All most of the things are constant, but there is also site for variable region. The variable region is the one or is the site where there is attachment of antibodies, or which are antigen specific, I should say. Now, what is an antigen? Antigen is a foreign substance which, when enters an individual or any organism, it in the response of that antigen, our body starts secreting the antibodies. So here also the antibodies, they are specific to an antigen. Now these curves which you can see in the structure of antigen binding site, this kind of site is there, this curved area is there. Now what kind of antigen do you expect? The antigen which is globular will be only able to fit over it, and the antigen which comes and gets fitted over that area will be as such that one side will be circular, and you can see another side is this kind triangular. So the shape will be of this type. So think a virus which is this shaped, so it will go and get combined at these two places, and as a result neutralization reaction will be initiated for killing the antigen. So in simple terms, this is a question, or this diagram is asked many times for 3 marks. So it is important that you learn it, how to draw the diagram. The markings are quite important. The disulfide linkage cannot be forgotten. The variable regions are to be mentioned. The variable regions are present not only in the heavy chain but also in the light chain, and as a whole the function of antibody molecule is to fight against the antigen effect or any foreign body which has infected a individual. Now these antibodies, they are always secreted from our body, and whenever there is an infection, but all the antibodies are not alike, they are very different, and for different kind of infection different kind of antibodies are secreted, and every time there is outflow or there is presence of different kinds of antibodies in our body. So basically there are 5 types of antibodies, and here it is very important that you remember about all these 5 antibodies, what is the function of each one of them, and it is there's a table given in your book. You should learn that table very properly. Few important points about each of the antibodies are to be learned properly, like IgG is a kind of antibody which can pass through the placenta. IgG, IgE is a antibody which is inducing, or which is capable of inducing most of the allergic reactions, and the largest antibody is the IgM. It is pentamerous, and you can see pentamerous structure. So 5 antibodies are all together joined and in a disulfide linkage, and that's why this IgM is the largest. It is the largest antibody which we have. IgA is a dimer, whereas IgE, D, and G, they are single monomers. So monomer units, the questions may be asked in this way as well, that name 2 antibodies which are monomers, name an antibody which is a dimer, and so on. So here are a few of the functions of different kinds of antibodies. Antibodies are also known as immunoglobulins. Why? Because globulin, because they have globular structure, and immuno means immune system is creating those structures. So that's why immunoglobulins. The main function is given. IgG is capable of trans crossing the placenta, so it provides immunity to the fetus as well. And normally we say that in most of the secretions there is presence of this kind of IgG, body secretions or body circulations. IgA is present in the mother's milk, in the saliva of an individual, the blood serum. So most of the fluids or external secretions have presence of this IgA antibody. IgE is responsible for hypersensitivity or allergic reactions. IgM is antigen specific, so it helps in recognition of an antigen as soon as our body encounters a antigen. It any IgM goes and binds to it, and it is also known as an antigen presenting cell. IgD is a, like, the correct function is not yet known, but still antigen receptors are present over it, and it helps in the killing of the antigens. So these are some of the antibodies which are to be studied by you all, and they are quite important for our syllabus. Now this is a question for you all. Name the antibodies or immunoglobulins which may be present in the which are present in the colostrum, saliva, and serum. So I will expect the answer from you all. Next topic which we move on to is the vaccination and immunization. Vaccination is a process in which any weakened germ or protein molecule, which is an antigen, is introduced in our body, which is no longer capable of causing the disease, but is still capable of producing antibodies in our body. So it is a structural substance. Suppose a antigen which has similar structure, or any substance which has similar structure like the antigen, can be introduced in order to produce the same effect, because our body will be producing the antibodies against the same shaped antigen. So it is all specific to the shape of the antigen, and our body will, as soon as it produces the antibodies, so we get immune towards that antigen, and this process is known as vaccination, but the outcome is the immunization. Outcome in the sense, when you are given a vaccine, you are given a weakened germ, but as a response of that vaccination, you become immune to the disease, and that is known as immunization. The entire process of protecting an individual from the disease after vaccination is immunization. So, this definition has to be understood quite well. What are allergies and allergens? Allergy is or an allergies are caused because of consumption of various food particles, sometimes dust, pollen grains, or certain proteins, which any protein which can cause a hypersensitivity or hypersensitive reaction in us, results in formation of an allergy. Now we must be aware that a particular substance may cause allergy to a person A, but it may be completely normal for another people. So in that way, allergens are very peculiar substances, and most of the times they can be very invasive as well. These substances are um, normally present in the environment, and just because of extra sensitivity of an individual, they cause some reactions to the individual. Now, what kind of symptoms can we see in the individual who has suffered an allergy? But before moving into that, what is an allergy? An allergy is an immune system response to any foreign material which has entered our body, and this foreign material may be harmful, may not be harmful. Like pollen grains, they are not harmful to us, but still our body, most of our body, they start producing immune response in as soon as we get introduced to dust particles, or we get introduced to the pollen grains. You will see some of the individuals, they will show reaction, others won't show the reaction. So it's very different. Some people, they have allergy towards mushroom, because mushroom has presence of vitamin B5, and this vitamin B5 may, some people may be allergic towards it, and that may cause the problem. Or there can be various other reasons for the same. There can be certain proteins present in that particular variety of mushroom which may be causing hypersensitivity in a particular individual, and it is completely individual dependent. It is not something which is as a whole same for the entire mass of human beings. It is completely dependent on a individual. It is unique. And normal allergens which are present in the environment, or which we encounter, are the dust, pollen grains, and pet danger. The various symptoms of allergies can be sneezing, itchy sensation. There can be runny nose or blocked nose, presence of chest tightness, sometimes vomiting, diarrhea, tummy pain, or the individuals will show rashes in their body. There should be red hives in the body, and sometimes the tongue gets swollen, eyes are swollen, the face is swollen, And even diarrhea can be seen in some of the individuals. Any of these symptoms can be seen in, it is not necessary that all the symptoms will be present, but yeah, some of the symptoms may be present in the individual who is encountering an allergic reaction. What can we do for these individuals who have such reactions? Now, one more thing is that an individual should be aware that whenever there is a allergic reaction, there should be, like, at times it can cause breathing difficulty, and as it may serve as an anaphylactic shock. And as the end of anaphylactic shock, the individual may die. So in that way it can become very dangerous for the life of an individual. We have to be very particular. If someone is allergic to a particular substance, it can be a food, fruit, it can be a food item, it can be anything, we should always avoid that food particle. Now, what exactly happens when an individual is encountering the problem? During that time, the IgE, which is an immunoglobulin, it binds to the type of WBC, the basophils. You can see the allergen, the pollen grains are shown over here. These are the pollen grains. So the pollen grains, they are bound, or they get bind to the basophils. The basophils go and get bind to the antigen presenting cells. The antigen presenting cells are kind of T cells, and these T cells, they need the presence of helper cells, T helper cells, to bring the receptors toward it. Now, antigen presenting cells are certain cells which are capable of bringing various kinds of receptors or glycoprotein molecules over itself, over the helper T cells. So the antigen presenting cells will go and get bind to the, or go and trigger the helper cells. Cytotoxic helper cells, they will get activated, and as a result there will be receptors present over them. The receptors will get activated, and they will go and bind to the antigen. Once they are bind to the antigen, then after, the B cells, the B lymphocytes, they understand the plasma cells, they get activated. The plasma cells, they start responding to it, and they start forming the antibodies. Now, once the IgE antibodies are formed, they go and get bind to the same B cells. The B cells can be macrophages or mast cells. They are basically the WBCs. So, as soon as they go and get bind to the mast cells, they burst off. So antibodies will go and get to bind to the mast cells. As a result, they will burst off, and histamine will be released. Histamine is a kind of toxin, and another function of histamine is to dilate the blood. So because of dilation of the blood flow will increase, and as a result, the red rashes can be seen in an individual. What generally has, or what actually has happened, the antigen along with the mast cell is killed, and as a result of it, histamine is secreted, so that histamine can kill the antigen, and that is shown up by our body in the form of swelling, rashes, hives. So these are the outcomes, or this is the entire process by which the outcome we have reached up to. Now, the treatment for this, we can use the any kind of penicillin, or yes, penicillin can be used. We can also use asthma, that respiratory pumps can be used, and any antihistamine tablets or pills can be taken in order to fight against the histamine rise, because the level of histamine has actually increased during this process. The treatment is the same antihistamine, and in the market we use Zytec or Claritine nowadays for treatment of the disease. So this is about the allergic reaction. Next thing is the autoimmunity. Autoimmunity, it means that the individual, they have gained immunity, or the immune system has started reacting against the same immune or the same organism. So autoimmune diseases are the kind of diseases which arise because our own immune system treats our own body as a foreign material. So your own RBCs will be treated as foreign, and the WBCs will attack your own RBC, which happens during the case of, if you remember, RH negative mother carrying a RH positive fetus for the second time. Similar kind of reaction is seen in the body, and it can be very life threatening for the individuals who suffer from these diseases, because their own immune system acts opposite to their safety. It can be Graves' disease, multiple sclerosis, or Addison's disease, or even rheumatoid arthritis. In all these conditions, we see that sometimes the bones they have started treating. In rheumatoid arthritis, the bones they start self-destruction, because the WBCs they locate the self osteocytes as foreign and they start killing them. Similarly, the nerve cells, they also, the multiple sclerosis is also a kind of disease where the nerve cells they start treating their own nerve cells as foreign and start degenerating them. So in this way, most of the diseases which are autoimmune, they are very dangerous for the sustenance of life of most of the individuals. The lymphoid organs, the primary lymphoid organs are the ones which are capable of forming all the lymph, or all most of the lymph fluid and other cells of the lymph, and they are the thymus and bone marrow. They are the primary sites from where most of the lymph fluid as well as the secretions are formed. Secondary lymphoid organs can be the spleen, the Pierce patches, the lymph nodes, and even, yeah, appendix. These all are secondary lymphoid organs, and they are called secondary because the B cells and the T cells, naive means very young, B and T cells are introduced to the antigens and the secondary lymphoid organs. So this is why they are known as the secondary lymphoid organs. The next disease which we will be discussing is the cancer. Now there are many points which we can discuss about cancer, but we will be just concising it in a very short way. Like, cancer is a disease which is caused by loss of contact inhibition. It means two cells, a cell has a rule for growth. It only grows unless it reaches another cell. If it reaches and comes in contact with the nearby cell, it will stop growing. This is a normal rule which a normal cell follows. But when a cell has got cancer, or it has become cancerous, it means it has lost the control over its mitosis. So continuous mitosis will take place and the cell will go on increasing in its size, and that is known as contact inhibition. It means if there are a series of cells like this, suddenly one particular cell, this cell becomes cancerous, and now this cell will start becoming big. It will go on becoming big. Now how big will it become, there is no idea. And even the nearby cells, it will not stop, it will grow over the nearby cells, and these cells will degenerate because of the growth of the cancerous cell. Metastasis is a condition which is seen in the cancerous cells, as because they have the capability, they at first infect a particular area and then after they migrate from that area to next area, to some different organ. Suppose the cancer is of, uh, say, lungs. Now from the lungs, it will not be confined to the lungs. Metastasis means the once the lungs are infected, or the cells of the lungs are infected, now with the blood it will migrate to next body organ. Maybe now it will go and infect the spleen or the stomach. So that is called metastasis. Next is, how does the cell grow to this extent? That term is angiogenesis. So angiogenesis means production or formation of new blood vessels. That is seen in case of all the cancerous cells. The cancerous cells, they have the capability of drawing or attracting all the nearby vascular tissue, the blood vessels, towards them, because they need a lot of food for their uncontrolled growth. And that can only be done by bringing their blood vessels from nearby places to themselves or generating their own blood vessels. So that is known as angiogenesis. And the third point which is written is uncontrolled proliferation. Of course, if angiogenesis has taken place, if it has lot of food supply, because blood provides all the nutrients to the cells, so lot of uh, vascular bundle or vascular arteries and vascular system surrounding the cell, it means lot of nutrients are there, and as a result there will be lot of proliferation and growth which can be seen in the cells. What causes the uncontrolled growth of the cells to take place? That is the defect. It can be genetic problem or it can be introduced by various agents like the x-rays, gamma rays, or certain radiations, or some chemicals can also induce cancer cells. In our body, there are always free radicals which are getting formed during the process of digestion and various chemical reactions which are occurring in our body. So those ROS or reactive oxygen species, they are every time producing cancerous cells and mutating the cells, but still our body is capable or is not showing the problem. The reason is the p53 gene. There is a gene which is known as p53 gene, and that is known as a master gene which controls the mitosis of all the cells. And unless this cell is infected, we do not suffer from cancer. This cell is known as the master cell or master gene, which controls the growth of the genes or growth of the cells. There is one more very important gene which is P21. It is a kind of proto-oncogene, and it also helps in avoiding the formation of cancer. So proto-oncogenes and oncogenes, the meaning of it is proto-oncogenes, the cells which are capable of forming cancerous cells are known as proto-oncogenes. It means they have the capability of forming oncogene, that is a cancerous cell, but they have not yet formed it. They are still waiting for the trigger to form the cancerous cell. And oncogene itself means that it is a cancerous cell. So all of these factors collectively lead towards the formation of a cancerous cell, or actually it gives rise to the cancer. Now cancer can be of various types. It can be benign or malignant. Now benign cancer is a kind of cancer which is not exactly considered as a cancer. It is a kind of tumor. Now this tumor has suddenly it is outgrowth in a individual's body, any part of the body, and it is a very tough hard area is very which is just tough like the skull, and it is not growing anymore. It is just a bump in the body, and it stays in a confined area, the place where it has originated, and has grown only little bit, and is no longer showing any kind of activity. It just grows for a certain period of time and then ceases its growth. That kind of tumor is known as the benign tumor, and it is not that infectious. It is just something which makes an individual feel uneasy, and it is not normal, natural. That's it. But the malignant tumor is something which grows on rapidly. The metastasis can be seen in only these malignant tumors, and they have fluid oozing out from them. There can be lymph, blood maybe coming out from there. These cells are painful and they cause vomiting, uneasiness if they have been caused in the mouth or in the stomach. So malignant tumor is something which shows all the symptoms of a activated tumor, whereas benign tumor, although it is capable of forming a malignant tumor, but it doesn't form malignant tumor all the time. It is just at times in a subsidiary condition tumor. How can we treat the disease? We can treat the disease by chemical methods, by usage of radiations. Sometimes we can even use certain surgery. Surgery can be done in order to remove it. And with the help of these all things, we can get rid of uh, tumor. First thing is diagnosis of the tumor at the right stage. If the tumor is diagnosed as at the early stage, we can diagnose it with the help of radiography or with the help of MRI or CT scan. And then after, we can just undergo any of the processes. Either you can undergo surgery if it is a benign tumor. If it is a malignant tumor, you can think of chemotherapy or radiation therapy in order to get rid of it. There is a huge chance that any individual can survive the problem of cancer.